During the most recent seasons of Family Guy, we've seen more and more stories that were darker than the rest. Topics such as murder, domestic abuse, suicide, and harassment began to be used more and more frequently. While some of these instances are overshadowed by comedy, using the violence itself to entertain, such as during Peter's infamous chicken fights, others are left to purposely invoke a sense of paranoia and fear into the audience. Today, we want to cover what we consider to be the top 10 darkest moments on Family Guy. And no, we won't be talking about Peter's search history being revealed, which, may I add, could have been avoided if he were using a VPN. Today's video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Surfshark is a virtual private network that helps you keep your data encrypted as you connect to the internet. You can also use Surfshark to connect to other regions. This could be handy if you wanted to watch Family Guy or other shows on Disney+. All it takes is a single click on Surfshark and you'll be connected to a different region within seconds. When you change your region, it will now enable you to watch stuff like Family Guy, Bob's Burgers, American Dad, or loads of other TV shows you might not be able to see in your current region. Another advantage of Surfshark VPN is that since it encrypts your data, you won't have to worry about anyone watching what you do online. So no one will be making fun of you for watching American Dad instead of Family Guy. If you'd like an amazing discount, go to surfshark.deals/screenaddicts and use our promo code SCREENADDICTS for an 83% off and 3 extra months for free. Or just click the link down below which will automatically apply the discount code for you. Starting at number 10, we have Brian's Confession. In the episode simply titled Brian and Stewie, the duo found themselves locked in a bank vault. Things quickly escalated when Stewie, rather than calling for help, used the last of his battery life to call a store to make a clothing return. This set the tone for the two, with the rising anger towards one another, followed by the sullen calm afterward. In one of these more calm moments, Stewie decided to ask Brian why he kept a gun in his safety deposit box. Initially, Brian tried to play off the question, first implying that there wasn't really any reason, before trying to tell Stewie that the baby wouldn't understand anyway. But after a moment, he caved and revealed it was for if he ever wanted to take his own life. This was then followed by Brian explaining how he had days where life became too hard to deal with, and that being a canine that wasn't so in touch with that part of himself, he felt lost. This episode stood out, being commended by fans for handling the topic with a level of sensitivity we don't normally see in the series. Following at number 9 is Peter being harassed. After showing up to work without glasses, Peter became the object of Angela's obsession. She started doing all she could to objectify Peter at work. When that wasn't enough, she began calling his house and insisting he sleep with her, using the fact that she was suicidal to guilt Peter into following through. Seeing Peter slowly become more and more terrorized was awful enough, but the fact that he couldn't get any help made it worse. When talking to his friends, they didn't offer any real advice, and when Peter went to Lois, she dismissed him, stating that he couldn't be harassed even if he liked it. At number 8, we have April in Quahog. This episode as a whole was upsetting for a number of reasons. First, Tom and Diane had no issue with making everyone believe the world was ending. They used their credibility in order to sell a fake story and came across as delighted when they bragged about their prank causing people to riot, loot, and even take their own lives. Aside from that, we then have Peter, who is exposed as the uncaring parent that he really is. As he was comforting Lois, Peter clearly stated that he hated being around his children. After the crisis was labelled as a simple prank, Meg, Chris, and Stewie were understandably hurt. Peter had decided that in their final moments they should know that their father hates them. In the end, Peter wound up buying his children's affection, but it was disheartening to see that Peter did in fact resent his family. Taking place at number 7 is Death on Mount Everest. When Lois decided to reconnect with an ex, the family was forced to sit through a dinner in which Ross and his wife and son were able to gloat about their success. Lois, not wanting to be bested, demanded that they also go to climb Mount Everest in order to prove they weren't the losers Ross's family labelled them as. Not only was this a horrible thing to do purely out of spite and put the family in danger, but this ordeal led to the Griffins having to eat Ross's son when they found him dead. Even worse was after this, when the Griffins see the distraught parents looking for their son, they didn't say anything and allowed the couple to walk right into a horrible storm. Next at number 6 is Seashell Party. This was another instance where the episode as a whole was incredibly disturbing. Trapped in the house during a hurricane, the family falls into boredom and so finds ways to make the time pass. In Brian's case, the solution was to take a bunch of mushrooms he had been saving and experiencing a horrible trip. As with many of Brian's ideas, this didn't pan out well for him, with the canine deciding to cut off his ear and experience hallucinations that showed him Peter being roasted alive and monstrous versions of the family and neighbours. This resulted in Stewie having to spend the evening sewing on Brian's ear and trying to console the dog as he rode out the worst of his drug trip. The rest of the family opted to be in the living room, waiting out the storm together. After Peter decided to sing along with some instrumental music, Meg snapped and set off a domino effect. When everyone began to dogpile on her as they normally did, Meg had enough and chose to stand up for herself. She tore into Peter and Lois, pointing out their horrible parenting and selfish behaviour. She criticised Chris for never being around when he needed her, expressing that she was tired of Chris choosing to berate her like their parents. When she finally had her say, everyone then began turning on one another, and the episode ended not with Meg finally being able to be seen for who she is, but with her deciding to take it all back and continue to be the family's punching bag in order to keep the peace. At number 5 is Evil Stewie. After he failed to shoot a child that had picked on him, Stewie was left to wonder what he had done to mess up, claiming he assembled the gun enough times to know better. When Brian stated it was because the infant was losing his edge, Stewie decided to fix it so his evil streak was once again intact. This experiment wound up failing to boost Stewie's need to be evil and instead created an entire secondary version of him that would go by Evil Stewie. What followed was several instances of Evil Stewie running around, maiming and killing people. When he first came across Brian, he chopped the dog's tail off and nearly suffocated him. When the original Stewie came across the scene, he was nearly made to eat the severed tail. As the evil baby fled, he sliced the woman in half before stealing her vehicle and was also shown to shatter the Kool-Aid Man. Following at number 4 is the Stewie kills Lois arc. Stewie's hatred for his mother is well known, even for those that aren't all too familiar with the show. The episodes Stewie kills Lois and Lois kills Stewie presented a world in which Stewie finally went through with his threat to get his mother out of the way. This wound up being a simulation, with Stewie deciding he had more to learn before following through with his plan. However, we had to include it on this list due to the level of violence and seeing major characters killed off, even if it hadn't lasted. At number 3, we have Chris being hunted. While suffering from the after effects of a hot dog eating contest, Lois announced that Chris was to be sent to a fat camp in order to lose some weight. While there, a child is found dead, having been strangled. This led to the show bringing back Lois's brother Patrick, typically known as the Fat Guy Strangler. Thanks to Patrick, they were able to figure out that Chris was meant to be the target. Sure enough, the killer was revealed to be Charles Yamamoto, the man that lost to Chris during the hot dog eating contest. Not only did this episode deal with murder, but it showed the terror Chris felt at wondering when the killer would find him. Taking our number 2 ranking is Quagmire's sister. When she returned after Glenn's near-death experience, viewers were shown more of the horrible life she was stuck in. Brenda was beaten and berated by her boyfriend Jeff to the point that many tried to get Brenda to get the courage to leave the man. When this failed, with Brenda explaining she was marrying Jeff due to being pregnant, Glenn, Peter and Joe decided to lure Jeff away to kill him. This plan nearly failed, with Jeff catching on and attempting to choke Glenn to death before Quagmire managed to crush Jeff to a tree with his car. The story ended with Brenda being given a fake note that told her Jeff left her before the credits rolled, leaving the 3 friends to share in the dark secret. Finally, at our number 1 spot for the darkest moment in Family Guy, we have Road to the North Pole. When one thinks of Christmas specials, one normally thinks of light-hearted and song-filled stories of wonder and magic. This was not one of those stories. It began by Stewie feeling insulted at not being given a gift he wanted, and so deciding to go to the North Pole to kill Santa himself. Brian, not able to convince Stewie that Santa wasn't real, was drug along for the trip. Not only was Santa real, but he was sickly and begged Stewie to kill him. He explained how Christmas had become so demanding that everything in the North Pole suffered. The reindeer were feral, the elves inbred and walking to their deaths, and Santa appeared malnourished and sleep deprived. Along with all of this, when Stewie and Brian offered to help, they made things worse and assaulted a family. But what do you all think? What do you consider to be the darkest moment on Family Guy? Let us know in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn notifications on for future uploads. We are the Screen Addicts, addicted to the screen as much as you.